if you haven't had a chance to get your food, but we have a few items of business and we want to leave plenty of time for the panel today. So we will get started. Welcome. We're so glad you're here. We are going to start with our chaplain, Sharon. She's going to offer our prayer, followed by our Americanism by Carol Bracken. And then we will go into the membership with Joanne Brinton, and we'll go to that part. Wait. Yeah.
Let us pray. Dear Father in heaven, we thank you for this sunny winter day and to be together. We're thankful to thee to have precinct chairs, delegates, and others here with us today who have experience with our caucus process to share their knowledge and experience with us. We thank thee for thy blessing of the Supreme Court, which blocked the federal OSHA vaccine mandate on private businesses. We're grateful to thee for Senators Manchin and Sinema for standing firm against the proposed elimination of the Senate filibuster procedure. We're thankful to thee for the freedoms we enjoy in our great state. Father, we ask for thy blessing for our speakers, that they may feel vigor, enthusiasm, and enjoyment in their role this election cycle. We ask for thy blessing for our politicians at all levels of government, that they may listen to, live up to, and fulfill the expressed desires of their constituents. And Father, we ask for thy blessing for our military, that they may feel thy grace and protection in our increasingly unsettled world in which conflict is possible. We humbly ask these blessings in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas has been one of our era's most important justices. He is both conservative and brave. Clarence Thomas was born on June 23, 1948, and grew up in Savannah, Georgia. During most of the time he was growing up, his father was not around, and his mother struggled to provide. Money was scarce, and there were times when they went hungry. That is, until it was decided that he and his brother should go and live with their grandfather and step-grandmother nearby. Clarence's grandfather was a small business owner who believed that with hard work and effort, you could succeed in life. He also encouraged Clarence to pursue a good education and enrolled him in a parochial school where he did well. He would then go on to attend the College of the Holy Cross with the intention to become a priest. In college, he greatly admired the Reverend Martin Luther King and was devastated when he died. As a result, he decided not to become a priest, but to pursue law, and in time graduated from Yale Law School. In 1974, Thomas was appointed to be an assistant attorney general in Missouri, and later became a legislative assistant to U.S. Senator John Danforth. He also did some private work. In 1982, President Ronald Reagan appointed him chairman of the Equal Opportunity Commission. After that, he served in the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. Then, on July 1st, 1991, President H.W. Bush nominated Clarence Thomas to the Supreme Court, saying that he believed he was the best qualified for this time. It was not an easy confirmation. Liberal groups were furious because of Thomas's criticism of affirmative action and suspicious that he might not support Roe versus Wade. They did everything they could to stop him, but Clarence Thomas was confirmed by the Senate on October 15, 1991, by a vote of 52 to 48. A total of 41 Republicans and 11 Democrats voted in his favor. Through the years, Justice Thomas has hired new clerks from Notre Dame Law School, Creighton, Rutgers, George Mason, and the University of Utah. During Donald Trump's presidency, many of Thomas's former clerks were appointed to political positions and judgeships. His wife, Virginia Thomas, has been very active in conservative politics and has even been referred to as an ambassador to the Tea Party. One of the greatest challenges that Clarence Thomas has faced in his life are critics who believe that because he is Black, he should believe a certain way. His response is, I am a man free to think for myself. Clarence Thomas has a great love and respect for the Constitution as it is written, and does not believe it is a document that can be interpreted however the political wind blows. The Constitution is now, more than ever, relevant to our day. Justice Clarence Thomas has said, since well before 1787, liberty has been understood as freedom from government action, not entitlement to government benefits. The framers created our Constitution to preserve that understanding of liberty. Justice Thomas also believes in human dignity. He said human dignity has long been understood in this country to be innate. When the framers proclaimed in the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, they referred to a vision of mankind in which all humans are created in the image of God and therefore of inherent worth. That vision is the foundation upon which this nation was built. End of quote. God bless you, Clarence Thomas. Please rise and join me in pledging. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Joanne's coming up, but I failed to mention the note cards on your table are if you have a question that you want to ask the panel today. So go ahead and be thinking of that, write it, and we'll collect that so we can get to as many questions as we can later.
Hey, Happy New Year. Again, February, we're excited to start and learn more about the caucus today. And we want to welcome some new members. We have Dina McCabe and Sandra St. Olson. Could you all stand up? That are new with us. And did Ann Hagan show up? She's also new. Okay. And then we also have some new silver and gem members, and we want to thank you so much for that. Those are members who give extra to our club, and it allows us in the past to not have to fundraise, which is wonderful. So we've got Larry Myers, who's a new silver member. And we're also so grateful for our associates. We need more men, so bring your husbands if they want. We're having the associate members. And Lisa Alexander, I don't think Lisa's here. Is she? Okay. And then we have some new gold members for this year. And I apologize, you get a free lunch when you become a gold member, and I don't have those lunch tickets. So if you want to wait to get your gold pin, I can print those out and give them next time, or I have your little badges. Free. But our new gold members are Annette Billings. And Sydney Bevan. And Gil Almquist and Jill both. And Shirley Snow, new gold member, thank you. And Lorraine Cox. Does anybody have guests or joining us new today? Would you introduce yourself and stand up with your guests?
I brought my husband.
friend Willie Billings, who's been here before, but he's not a member, so he's actually gonna run for the House of Representatives for District 72. All right. We're doing it with table. I have my mother-in-law Jan Kaplan.
I'm brand new, I'm Dean McKagan.
Welcome. I have my mother back there, Marina Spence, visiting, and Alicia Madsen also visiting here. Anybody else? Anyone? I have my sister, Rebecca Lynn. Okay. I'm Julie. Oh, welcome. Okay, we have a lot to get to today, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Joanne. We're good to have all the new friends with us. Let's see, I failed to welcome our elected officials as well. We have a couple of our county commissioners, Adam Snow, Bill Almquist back there. We have Mayor of Hurricane, Annette Billings. You'll hear from her later. And did I miss anyone? We've got Lorraine Cox, School Board. And we have Susan Lewis, Clerk Auditor. And we have our previous sheriff with us as well. Good to have you. So did I miss anyone else? Okay, all right. We're going to move on. We have a legislative minute. Kristen Isham is just going to touch on a couple bills. The session is currently going on, so she wanted to share a couple of bills with us. And then it is the new year, so we have our new budget. And LaStar Richens is going to present that for a vote today as well. We should mention that Rachel Morgan was our elected treasurer, but she unfortunately has had to resign due to some personal and work issues that she's dealing with. So LaStar has kindly volunteered to keep being our treasurer. She was our previous treasurer, so thank you so much. So I'll have her present that, and we'll go to that point. Kristen.
Hi, my name is Kristen Mitchell. Me and a few of the Washington County Republican women went up to the Capitol last week on the 28th, and we got to have the opportunity to listen to the House representatives and Senate members and talk about some very important bills that are being presented. I've actually picked two of them that are quite important. One is Senator Jones, Patricia, who is a floor sponsor. She's sponsoring the HCR 7 credit score concurrent resolution bill. These can be all found on le.utah.gov, and you can search all the bills that are being either presented to the floor, in the process of being passed, and therefore, so that's one. There's another one that I found very intriguing, and it's being advertised all over, is the SB 59 tax amendment, I believe. And that is it just passed the House. It's going on to the Senate right now. And the floor sponsor for that is Casey, Representative Casey. And again, these can all be found on le.utah.gov to go ahead and learn more in depth on what these bills are pertaining to. So, okay.
On your table should have the budget on there. Hopefully you were able to look at it. It was also sent out. And we were able to, fix some of those things on there. So anybody have any questions or any concerns or anything? And then, no questions? Okay, then we will vote on it. Everybody, how do you say it? I don't have this up here.
Yeah, if members want to vote, let someone make the motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
to pass the
Jennifer will-
budget as as provided.
What? I'll second the motion.
Okay. So,
And
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Start. Let's see what else we've missed. A couple other announcements. Thank you to all of you that brought the toothpaste back there on the table. At the end of the year, we introduced a new charity for our year, and this year we're doing Cherish Families. If you didn't hear about that, it's a great organization that helps women and children and new families get on their feet. And it's located out in Hilldale, Utah. So each month we're going to try and bring items to the luncheons if you can to help support them. This month it was toothpaste. Next month we're going to do deodorant. Is that correct? So if you would just want to bring a couple dollars worth, they also, always accept cash, gift cards, that kind of thing. But we'll try and help them out throughout the year. So that is what that is. We have on the table as well, if you'd like to sign up to give a prayer at our luncheons, Sharon would appreciate that. I think you can write that down or let her know if that's something that interests you. And then we also have Lincoln Day coming up. There's still a few more seats left. So if you didn't have a chance and you want to sit at our Republican women tables, let us know after and we'll get you squared away with that. We'd love to have you. We have 9 tables so far, so it's awesome. We're going to have a great representation there at Lincoln Day. And also Judy Houston is our Lincoln Day chair for the county party. And she has we're going to pass it around. If you'd like to volunteer, we could use help ushering people and things that night. So you would come at 5 o'clock on the 26th, February 26th. So if that's something you're interested in, please help volunteer. And Judy can answer questions that way too. We'll get with you. Let's see, did I miss anything?
Did you say there were still tickets available?
Yes, there's a few remaining seats and we can have you at the Republican women tables if you'd like. So just get with the star after. She can help you get squared away that way. So perfect. I'm going to, sorry. Go ahead.
And if you are sitting at the Republican women's table, you get to meet Ben Carson in person.
Thank you. Thanks for reminding me. Yes, as part of our Republican women tables, you get that private reception to meet Ben Carson and Andy and get a quick picture with him. So that's really fun. We're thrilled to have him in Washington County. So thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to turn the time over to Shirla. She's going to introduce our speakers today, and we'll get started on our panel. Oh, I forget. Sorry, Shirla. We have our little video, but let's have you introduce. Sorry, come on up. Do you want to do the, okay. We're going to show a quick little video. Our friends in Iron County created this, Iron County GOP, and it's a 2-minute video of an overview of kind of caucus if you're new to that, and then we'll have Shirla introduce our speakers.
Is her light off, Haley?
Yeah, let's see. I forget which one.
There's somebody here.
At the back.
Every 2 years, you and your neighbors come together in a meeting called a caucus to vote for those who will best represent you. These representatives are called delegates because they are delegated the responsibility of researching the candidates. For example, John, your friendly, trusted neighbor, has always been there for you and serves in the community as your delegate. Opponents of the caucus system label citizens like John as extreme. False. In reality, the individuals elected as your delegates are your respected neighborhood leaders, like John. To be elected as a delegate, you must receive a majority of the vote. This ensures the views of the majority are represented. Maybe you've heard that your vote doesn't count. False. You vote for your friend John, or perhaps you are elected as a delegate to represent your neighborhood. Your voice is heard through empowering delegates you know, trust, and can converse with. The caucus system allows you to get on with your life, while John worries about the politics. The delegates you select are charged with the task of thoroughly interviewing candidates for office. For this reason, Utah is the best managed state. What about the rumor that primary elections increase participation? False. The caucus system requires candidates to speak directly to voters. In primary elections, candidates are required to reach tens of thousands of people in a very short period of time. Because this is impossible, candidates are required to raise large sums of money, making them accountable to lobbyists instead of you. Candidates then turn to political consultants, paying them large sums of money to get their political message out through TV ads, automated phone calls, and junk mail. Utah experimented with the direct primary system from 1937 to 1947, which marked the end of a disastrous decade in Utah politics. During this time, the populace dumped the primary system when voter turnout declined to only 10%. Increasing the difficulty for a candidate to win at convention results in more power and influence for those who profit off of our elections. Preserve our traditions and protect your local neighborhood caucus.
So that was created a few years ago, a little more in the debate with SB 54, which we won't get into, but it gives you a little overview of your neighborhood caucus and how that works. I did check with our clerk auditor, and the county they're waiting on the approval of the legislature, but they'll send out new cards, voting cards to you, because with the redistricting, you now have a new precinct number most likely, and the boundaries have shifted a little bit. So keep an eye out for that. We don't know exactly when that's going to be out. They're waiting from the state. So keep an eye out for that. And you can always reach out to the county party or the clerk's office. And on their website, you can find the precinct maps and all of that if you're curious of where you fall. So, hey, go ahead, Shirley. Sorry.
Really? When will be will they flip the switch on because there's a facility where you can look up your precinct on the state?
On the vote.utah.gov.
When will that be done?
Do you know, Susan, or is that? Okay.
Well, is that going to happen before caucus?
We're hoping. Yeah, the proposed ones are up and they shouldn't change. So go to our county website. You can get those proposed maps right now currently. So
No, I know.
okay.
Okay, it's my delight, pleasure, whatever you want to call it, to introduce the three panel members today. Now, I'm a beginner. I'm new at this. Whatever you want to call it. They're not. So listen to what I have to say about them. Let's start with Nanette Billings. Was born and raised in Hurricane. Yay. Her family moved to Monroe, beautiful place. And when she was 10, she graduated from South Sevier High and married her high school sweetheart, Willie. Aww, there's a story in itself. She graduated from SUU. She has 5 children and 5 grandchildren. She has been involved in her community her entire life, from the time she attended Girls State. Her mom instilled in her the importance of showing up, voting, and keeping elected officials accountable. She has been on the Hurricane City Council for 2 years, and she was recently elected as the mayor of Hurricane City. She believes the best way to promote freedom is to follow the U.S. Constitution. Colin Jack is a lifelong Republican. His first vote was for Ronald Reagan in 1980, and he hasn't missed an election since. He's voted in them all. Colin became active in the Republican Party after the U.S. Congress passed the 2005 Energy Policy Act. And since then, he's served as county and state delegate and lots of chairs. He has held lots of chairs. And served several terms as a member of the Utah GOP State Central Committee. Colin is an electrical engineer and has worked as the chief operating officer for Dixie Power since '94 and as a consultant for international development since '93. Colin has been married for 38 years. You have a good start. and has 3 children and 1 granddaughter who's going to wrap grandpa around her finger. He's just the tender heart that'll do that. Judy Bozeman. Judy's background was, let's see, she has an IT background and led a successful career and then before retiring to St. George. She has been actively involved in her community as a precinct chair and delegate. She attends city and county council meetings, and she keeps her community well informed. Now, I have it on good authority that there are many mayors and commissioners in the state that the congressmen and the senators don't know, but they all know Judy. She is a force to be reckoned with. She is a big supporter, I'll go back to my notes, she's a big supporter of our law enforcement and first responders. She has been married to Keith forever and forever. You didn't tell. Judy voted.
Let's stand for a minute to start. And figure out how to turn it on. Is it on? Okay, lights came on. So I just wanted to start with about the caucus and how it's going to, in your community, when they're talking about in your neighborhood, so there's about between 800 and 1,000 people that are in that caucus. And only, I don't know, we've had up to 200 to 300 show up. So not everyone's going to show up, but your responsibility as a citizen, as a person that's in your community, I would say, is to call your neighbors and friends and say, please come to the caucus meeting. People that are you're like-minded with, that you say, we have the same views, I'd like them to come. People that are your neighbors that go, I know they're not politically active, maybe they'll come. You want people that are in your community because then that's the voice of your community, okay? That's the first thing, is I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of a charge to say, do that. I have been the precinct chair, I've been a vice chair, and I've also been the secretary and treasurer, so I've helped organize the caucus meetings. So one of the things that you could do is call people within your, if you look at online, you'll be able to see who's in that area, and if you know people across town that's in that area, have them come. It should be listed where, usually in a school or community center, sometimes in the, I'm going to say school and community center, it's probably best. So you'll know the location. You want to show up early. If you're not registered as a Republican when you go to the actual caucus meeting, you need to have your friends or you register, because you have to be registered for the affiliated party to vote in that caucus meeting. They'll give you your information. And then what you're doing is this year, you're electing people to become the chair and the vice chair and the secretary and treasurer. That's your leadership for your community. After that, you're electing people to represent you at the county and state convention. They're both on 2 different dates. April 9th is the county convention. April 23rd is the state convention. That's this year. Next year, those same delegates for county and state will also join, and they will vote on the leadership for your county and state Republican Party. Okay? Like how we organize. Excuse me, it's called an organizing convention. This year is very critical for the elected officials in your county and your state that you will be electing. For example, on a county level, you'll be electing your legislators for each of the districts. 72, 76.
72, 73, 74, 75.
Okay, so those will be your 4 within that. And so whatever legislative district you are, and then you'll also, during your caucus meeting, you'll be voting for people that are going to be representing you for state. That's going to be your congressional and your senators, okay? And then the next year, in only 2 years, it will be for the presidential. So, and then just so you're aware, municipality, that is, it's not bipartisan, so you won't ever have that in part of your caucus. I just wanted to mention just a couple of things about while you're there. Good questions to ask people are, do you plan on staying in the area? If they're planning on moving soon, you do not want them to vote them as your chair or vice chair or secretary or treasurer. That party, that portion of the party matters for you to have someone that's consistent, that's going to stay in your community. The reason is if they have a special election. For example, when Craig Pulsifer had resigned and we had the county chair and vice chairs get together to vote for a new sheriff, a new county commissioner, Adam Snow, those are the people that come to vote. So if you have those people leave your community and aren't there, you cannot replace them till the next caucus meeting. So it's really important for you to ask those questions for the chair, vice chair, secretary, treasurer, because you can't replace them. Okay. The other delegates for county or state, you want to elect people to be the county and state delegate, and then also alternates. And you can, in my caucus, we have always, and this has just been since 2000, so the last 21 years that I've attended caucus meetings, we have said, we'd like to make a motion to amend the rules, and we've said if they're going to be our chair and vice chair and secretary and treasurer, we'd like them to be county and state delegates as well. Because those are going to be the people that are going to be stable, going to be here in your community. You don't have to do it that way. You can just elect them to be your county leadership or your precinct leadership, and then you vote for someone to be your chair and, your state and county delegates. But it does make so that the people that are representing you are also the people that are making sure that they contact the neighborhoods and get people to the caucus meetings. So those are options, things you can choose. And I don't know if one's right or wrong. That's just the way we've done it to maybe help with the actual voting. Another question would be a good one. A lot of times people want to know, who are you going to vote for, for president? When that comes up in 2 years, that's going to definitely be a question. But most of the time is, how do you stand on the Republican platform? Those are good questions, because then you're actually going to be able to find their answer on issues that you believe in. If you have questions, I'm going to move it on along to Colin and to Judy, and if you have questions, we'll answer them at the end, okay?
So just a little bit about my experience with the caucus system to supplement what Annette had already explained about how the caucus works. I remember the first time I got invited to the caucus system was to a caucus meeting was in '94. One of my good friends was a precinct chair and said, "Hey, Colin, come to the caucus meeting tonight, Republican meeting." And I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know what they did there. So I said, well, I don't think I need to go there just to talk about Republican stuff because I already vote. So I went along blissfully ignorant until about 2005. We mentioned the Energy Policy Act of 2005 suddenly started rolling out new laws that were making all of our power bills more expensive and less reliable. And I said, well, who put these stupid laws in place? And it turned out it was a Republican Congress and a Republican president. And I said, well, who put them in there? And it was the voters. And I said, well, who put them on the ballot? Because I had voted for them, right? I show up in November every year since 1980 and voted for the Republican. And well, who put them there? It was the delegates who go to the caucus meeting, get elected as delegates, go to the state convention and vote for the candidates to put them on the ballot. And I said, well, how do I become one of those delegates? Because I want to vote for different people who aren't going to raise our power rates. And they said, oh, you go to the caucus meeting. I'm like, oh, you mean like my friend invited me to go to like 10 years ago? So then I went, and you heard I got elected as a delegate and then elected as the chair. And then it becomes an issue of finding delegates to fill, right? Because everybody wants to be a delegate on the even years when you're voting for candidates, and then nobody wants to be a delegate on the odd years when you're voting for party leadership. So when you go to your precinct meetings, your caucus meetings, make sure, Willie's laughing, am I right? Yeah. So when you go there, make sure you get people who have committed to be in for 2 years, right? It's a 2-year thing. The other thing I've heard about, so now I've been going to caucus meetings 15, 17 years. But I have heard people who have had less good experiences than I have. I found my caucus meetings to be well organized, very well attended, and pretty exciting to be there. And we have a pretty good discussion about who should be our delegates, who should be our leaders, and whoever I voted for or supported didn't always win. I didn't always win, but always felt like everybody got a fair shot. And it's with your neighborhood folks. If you're LDS, it's about 3 wards worth of people. And so they're people you know, and you're all in a room and you vote. And I always thought it was a good process. And then we went to convention, and I thought conventions were fun and exciting. And you're cheering for your candidates either for elected position or for party leadership. And I always liked that. Now I've heard other people have gone to caucus meetings that they thought were unorganized and were poorly attended, and maybe people didn't get a fair shot. And if you're in one of those, I would say get in there and fix it and become the precinct chair and make it work for you, like my precincts have always worked. And so I always appreciated that. So let's see, we're probably done with my 10 minutes, but I know that we mentioned SB 54 a little while ago, and I was a delegate at the state convention. I was on the state central committee. I have spent many hours fighting against SB 54, which provided an alternate route around the caucus system here in Utah. I was part of the group that pressed for lawsuits until, and we didn't know when we made these decisions, we didn't know, but we ended up bankrupting the party and had to dig ourselves out of it because lawsuits are very expensive. Well, having lost those lawsuits, I think we're not talking about that anymore. Now we're talking about how do we make the caucus and convention system the preferred route, since now we have a law in Utah, and that's where we live now. So I think that's my experience. I just share that with you and look forward to the questions and answers.
I'm going to cover just a lot of things, probably because the other folks already went over a lot of things. One thing that I think we're probably not aware of, the number of delegates that each precinct gets is based on their voter turnout. So you as a precinct chair need to ask nicely, and if you have to, threaten people, get out and vote, because it makes a big difference with the number of people that you have when you go to convention, and it's important.
Can I add one note to that? Sure. So just to clarify, just like Judy said, it's proportional to your voting in your precinct. However, each voter in your precinct can get up to 4 points. You get a point for whether you vote for the Republican governor, if you vote for the Republican attorney general, the Republican treasurer, and the Republican auditor. So if you show up and you decide that month or that election you're voting independent, or you want to vote for the governor but not the other 3, you don't get all 4 points. And so if you show up and vote for all 4, you bring 4 points to you, and they add up those relative numbers, and that's how we allocate the delegates to each precinct.
Okay, thank you. The other thing this year, it's very important at the county convention. We're voting for a lot of county offices. All 3 of our county commissioners are up for re-election. I think they're all running. I'm not sure about people that are challenging them, but what's the budget for the county? Just off the top of your head. No, for the entire county, what's the budget? How many? 100 million. Okay. These 3 men are the people that make the decision on how that money is spent. So it's very important that these people get vetted, number 1, and number 2, that we support them, not support them, or whatever. Your county races are just as important as the national ones, because all politics are local. And it's also, I think we vote for the county attorney, county clerk. So there's a lot of races that you sort of forget about, the sheriff. And we should not forget and overlook those. The other thing is know your candidates when you vet them. A lot of people think we shouldn't ask questions other than, what kind of ice cream do you like? Okay, that is not an important question. You go, the reason that Keith and I are as busy as we are, we go to a lot we go to everything because you ask the guy the same question and his answer should be the same every time. If it isn't, we need a follow-up question. So that's important. The other thing I think is really important, in today's world, everything seems to be very emotional. What we really need to do is find out what are the job requirements. That's what we should be voting on the person for, based on the job that they're supposed to do, not if they have a great big family, if they're this, if they're that, if they're drop dead gorgeous, whatever. That's not important. It's what kind of job they're filling. So qualifications are important. The other thing, my first caucus was we had moved to Sun River and our good friend Diane Adams says, have you been to caucus? And I said, why no? And she says, you're going. So we went to caucus, and at that point, we didn't have it at our community center. We had it at a local school, a children's school, little bitty children. So after cramming yourself into those desks and then trying to get back out of them, it was hilarious. However, when we came out of caucus, it was like, whoa, this is totally cool. The power of your vote, and everybody thinks, it's not important. Wait until, if you can become a delegate, you'll find out how powerful your vote is, because every person that is running for that office is going to be after your vote. And that's a great thing. If you stop and think about it, you have a lot of power. That one vote has a lot of power. The conventions are a ball. You get to meet people. One quick thing. When we first moved out there, we had a Patrick Henry caucus. And I think Carl Wimmer was the sponsor. And Mike Lee was his opener. And so Keith and I listened to Mike Lee, and I said, I would vote for this guy for president right now. So then Mike got involved and decided that he was going to run for the Senate. So once again, we went to every meet and greet, and we caught up with him at Ivory Homes in the park. It was July, so hot. So we had him all to ourselves for about 45 minutes and found out that if we could really let him do what he wanted to, we could get rid of all kinds of things that don't belong in Washington. And and to this day, I don't know that he remembers the Bozeman's, but he remembers his friends from Dixie. Same way with Chris Stewart. Chris occasionally will call and ask if he can come and talk to the people in Sun River. Now, I don't know how many of you are California transplants, but did you ever have your U.S. representative call and say, hey, how you doing? Could I come and talk to your group? Never. So it's the caucus system. I am probably the biggest proponent, and I think we really, really need to fight for it, because if people don't realize what caucus is. The other thing is, bring your little kids with you. I mean, if you've got an 8, 10-year-old, they might find that it's extremely interesting. You might have to, take them outside once or twice, but it's important that they learn the process. So I think that's all I have to say. Anyway, we need to caucus.
So I want to clarify just a couple of things. First of all, when you go to caucus meeting, you're looking for people to represent your community. Just like we live in a representative government. So when we elect someone to be the mayor, or someone to be county commissioner, or someone to be your legislator or congressman, they're representing you in those respective, okay? That's what you're doing. You are representing your community. So it's so important when you're asking those questions. Can you show up for 2 years? Can you go to this convention? And sometimes you pull up the convention and say, I have plans already on April 9th or 23rd. You don't want to vote for them. You want to tell everyone else, we want to make sure that people that can actually show up to that. Because when you represent them, it's kind of like a big popularity contest when people really feel that when you're in that caucus meeting. But you want to be very forthright and transparent to say, you can't go. I'm sorry. Yeah, we'd love to have you. In 2 years, maybe you can do it. It's okay for you to make sure that you let them know we want people that can actually show up. Can you come next year? Will you commit to change your schedule
so that you can actually show up to vote, because it's that important for our community that you're representing the 800 people. The other thing is, when they're talking about getting people out to vote, one of your responsibilities as a person in the community and a person that's part of your caucus is to help people go actually vote. And the reason you want to do that, you can't like just take it to you, but call people, say, hey, have you voted? That type of thing, because my precinct, we get at least 3 to 4 state delegates and 8 county delegates. That's a large number, because we have people in our community that vote. They vote because we call them and say, hey, have you voted? Did you get your packet? So people in my 800 area, my circle of influence, they vote. So that's, you want to help them get out to vote. Were there other questions?
I have a caucus you belong to and when the meetings are held.
Good question. So it'll be March 8th is the date at 6 o'clock.
6 or 7?
Registration.
Or registration.
For you to come, I think they want you to come at 6 o'clock. And then it will be in your local intermediate school or community center. And you'll be able to look up on the Washington County website soon, but it's not there yet. And it won't be there. The legislature should be voting on that because they don't finish their session until after this March 8th. But it'll be on there soon.
So you can go there to find the location, but the date is the same for every.
It's statewide.
Yeah, so March 8th for the whole state is going to be the caucus. And you will, from the Washington County Republican Party, we'll be sending out mailers. You'll have door hangers on your precinct chairs are going to help get those on your doors of your neighborhood so that you can be aware. So from a county level, we'll also get the word out with as much advertising as we can do so that you can invite your neighbors that way too.
I have a question.
Can I, one thing, God, you can hear me. One thing that we have gotten from the county are walkable precinct lists. Okay, those work out really well because what you can do, it's a street listing. What you can do is you can pick, just like you do for neighborhood, then what is it? The safety program. Anyway, what you can do is you can pick a person and say, okay, could you contact everybody on your street and remind them the caucus is da-da-da-da, and tell them where it is. Okay, if you split that up, you might have an extremely good turnout at caucus. The other thing we've done in the past is we sent postcards to everybody in our precinct. It's costly, but whatever. You need to have people show up. It's very important. But the walkable precinct list, which we get from the county clerk, it's invaluable. And because it shows all the voters.
Is that the job of the delegates to get, or the job of the
Precinct.
The precinct chair, the leadership, your chair, your vice chair, your secretary, treasurer, they're the people that are going to be doing that.
My
Yes.
question is your chair, your vice chair, and your secretary. So you're saying that those 3 positions, you usually give those also as delegates?
We personally have in our own caucus meeting, just because we feel like if you're going to actually be in charge of helping your community, you probably should be, if you have the same like-minded Republican principles, you want them to be your leadership as well, because they're going to show up.
The question I have, do those 3 people vote on things, or just do the delegates vote on things?
Oh, they're a delegate. So you're saying in the caucus meeting?
Well, yeah, I'm wondering
Everyone has a vote no matter what you are. If you're like, I'm actually right now the treasurer secretary in my precinct, so I will get a vote to vote on the people that are going to be proposed.
About this, maybe help answer your question with the CCC.
Yeah, so maybe by way of clarification, if the delegates are the ones who come to convention,
Yes.
and the delegates at the convention then on even years elect who are going to be our leadership in the country, Congress, and on odd years, our leadership in the party. And so if your precinct chair, vice chair are delegates, because you select them that way, or they get elected separately, then they go vote for that. Now, also, automatically, your precinct chair and vice chair are also members of what's called the County Central Committee. And so the County Central Committee, all the precinct chairs and vice chairs, they get together twice a year to do party business, budget and so forth. But also, if there's a special election, like we just had for sheriff, for county commissioner, and who was our third one last year? Oh, and clerk auditor. We had 3 last year. The chairs and vice chairs as part of the county central committee vote in those special elections, midterm elections.
For the delegates not.
The delegates don't to that,
For the special election.
for the
Yeah.
special.
Oh, There was a question that says, we have 4 delegates in a 2-block area. Shouldn't delegates be more spread out? So they have put caucuses in a very large area. And so it's probably not the dynamics of the area that you're worried about. It's whether or not they agree with you. That's who you're voting for. People that have the same principles as you, no matter if you're your next door neighbor, if they live a mile away and they're in your caucus meeting, that's who you want to vote for, in my opinion. So, one says, I'm just curious, do the Democrats do a caucus meeting as well? Yes, they do on the same night on March 8th. And the reason they do, every single party, if they want to hold one, is that same night. And the reason they do that is so you can't go to one night and one to another night and change your affiliation and then vote on that one. And then how do they nominate theirs? It's the same. They nominate theirs through caucus, through the convention. Yes.
The Democrats, they used to hold their caucus meetings in phone booths, but we don't have those anymore.
Well, toward that, in the Republican Party, now we have, how many precincts? 128, 130? It's about 130, so we'll have 130 caucus meetings. The other brand will have 4, 1 per legislative district.
There's a question right here.
She had heard that the Democrat caucus, you don't have to be a registered Democrat.
And I think you're probably correct. They let anyone come there and vote at it, and that's why it's the same night.
Just so you know, from the libertarian or from the mid, from all of our swing voters, that is an issue because they can openly attend those meetings and vote. And on the Republican side, you just have to register it.
And you can register that night. So that's very important. If you have people that are not registered as a Republican, but they say, I'm unaffiliated, you say, hey, you can come to the caucus meeting, and if you would like to register as a Republican, you can vote. Do we want everyone that doesn't agree with our stance to be registered Republicans? No. And it's okay. That's what's beautiful about America, is we get to choose how we vote, right? This is just part of the.
But one thing that's confusing about that, because I got that a lot when I was the chairman here and then the vice chairman of the state party. People were calling me on that. Most people don't understand that the political parties, whether it be Democrat, Libertarian, Republican, they are private entities. They are not government organizations. They are private clubs, basically. And so as a private club, you have control over who's members of your club. And so within Utah, the Republican Party chooses that path.
And so if they don't believe in the platform, then we do. I'll get back here. 1 second. Let me give it to Judy. I'll read it back, okay?
Susan.
Yeah.
Okay. A few years ago, we had an outdated list that we used for the check-in, the holy list, if you will. Okay, a lot of people weren't on it, so we had them register. Then we went to turn everything in. They said, oh, you didn't have to do that, and they tossed them out. Okay, so when people check in, if they are not on the holy list, but they have their voter registration card or a printout, is that acceptable?
So we will be sending out these new voter registration cards as soon as the legislature
Right.
passes the law. It will say your precinct, it will say your state, it will say your, it will say all of the things that you're in, okay? So which house you're in, which
Right.
district you're in, and all of that. So if they have their voter registration card, yes, they're good. But what I wanted to say, can I jump in here?
Sure.
Is that to participate in the Republican primary election in June, you have to be registered as a Republican before March 31st. They already moved that date up, so let all your friends and neighbors know they can't change their affiliation in, April, May, or just before the election in June. To get a Republican ballot, you have to have already picked that you're Republicans by March 31st.
Okay, yes, Joanne.
Can people flip-flop back and forth? Because I've heard that the Democrats even send out a mailer suggesting
secretaries and then come back.
Yep.
After, like,
And that happened last year. And because of that, that happened last year when we were having the issues with like the governor. So they changed the regulations this year. So March 30th, 31st is the day. Adams, Commissioner Snow.
That's part of the beauty of the caucus system, right? Is that if somebody switches and you're like, hey, you're my next door neighbor, you're just flaming love. Why are you here tonight? Right? And they say, no, I'll be your precinct chair, I'll be your state delegate.
You know
My
that.
hand would go up and say, yeah, no, not that person.
So I had, it's a really hard thing to be transparent and kind of strong. Right up this. So what happened is I had a neighbor that I knew was moving from our area and she wanted to be part of the precinct leadership. And that's why I brought this up. And I just said, well, she's selling her house. And so I don't feel like that's a good fit for our community. Let's make sure we don't vote for someone that's moving. And I didn't say her, but I said, I know you're moving. I'm concerned about, let's not vote for someone that's moving because then we don't have leadership to actually show up. She was furious with me. I went to her and I was like, I'm sorry. This is really important to our community. She was really, really, really mad. But they'll get over it because we have to have people that are going to represent us. Okay?
I just want to clarify something that you said, Lynette, because I have the impression people don't understand. The chair, the vice chair, and the secretary do not automatically get to be delegates. So at the beginning of your meeting, you have to go in there and you say, I'd like to make a motion that these people become delegates if they're elected as. And so you can't assume that because you're going to get chair, that you do all the work and you get to be a delegate. So make that happen. That's important.
Yeah. And the reason that's such a good thing is if they're going to be doing all of the phone calls and get everybody there and then not being able to vet the candidates and go vote, that's an important side. Yes.
Related to that, isn't it a requirement that each time precinct caucus happens, you must vote as a group on the election, on the caucus rules?
Yes.
You do.
For all of that?
Yes.
Each time.
Each time.
So
That's true. Okay, yes, Commissioner Omquist.
I haven't always been in charge of not just a delegate, I've been a long time there. I like it when they read the platform, even if it's too long, but at least they can highlight, because I think some people that are there, like Commissioner Snow said, they need to be called out, if they're not gonna really believe it. Yeah.
But we, as Republicans, we're standing up for those principles on the Republican platform, correct? And I printed off the last time, because I'm the secretary chair right now. I mean, I've been a chair, but I printed them off on my last one and just handed them out. I gave one to everybody and we read our Republican platform. And I said, I'd like you to keep this kind of close to your Bible, because if you believe these things, then you're going to actually stand up for them and live this way. So, yes, I'm Kathy Percival.
For, I may be the only few in here that's new, my first caucus and even voting in Utah. Is there, I thought I heard somebody mention packet or something, will something come to the House? Or we just have to kind of know about this? So if you're new, you don't know.
We knew, that you're right. When people are new, that's what our responsibility as neighbors and friends is to let people know. It'll be on the radio, it'll be in the newspaper, it'll be on social media, but we have to pay attention and get it out there. Yes, Commissioner Omquist.
We are instructed to be civically minded in our various faiths, and we announce it in church. So that gets a lot of.
Yeah. Wow. It does. So getting people there is our responsibility, just as a voting American. Did you have another comment over here? Okay. Any other comments? Yes, right.
I have a question. So on February 15th, the CCC meeting will be a little bit of training. How do you get other people trained that wouldn't be attending that? Is there some type of formal training?
So the 15th is for your current precinct chairs and vice chairs. So if you know who that is, they should be attending. Give them a nudge. But if you don't know who that is, you can also reach out to the county party and find out. But that night, they are training how to run the meeting for a conference night.
But what about to get out to the public? I mean,
yeah, they're going to be
newer to the area. How do you know what I mean?
Yes. So the county party is putting together packets for them to hand out. They'll have door hangers, they'll have their own postcards, things, and we're training them on how to go door to door in their neighborhood and make sure the voters know about Congress.
That's
Well, the 15th is a training for the CCC members. That's your precinct chairs and vice chairs that are currently serving before you elect new ones on the 8th.
Excuse me, that's where that walkable, the lady that asked the question? About the question you were asking, that's where that walkable precinct list comes in handy. So if you know who your precinct chair is, urge them to get that list, and then you just work the neighborhood. And you can get, X number, as many people as you can.
So it'll be up to 10 people to go and walk 10 different streets.
So it'll be up to the vice chairs and the chairs that are currently there to get new people trained.
So we're about done. We just have a couple more questions right here.
Okay, the question I've got is maybe you guys can answer this, because they've realigned all the boundaries. We're probably gonna run into situations where you have precinct chairs and vice chairs from two separate precincts that are now in the same precinct. How are you handling that?
Yeah, so if you
Don't know when you say that.
If you didn't hear, he was asking now with the realignment of the districts, it may have split where now you've got two precinct chairs that were elected previously that are supposed to be over one precinct. That's what the county party is working through right now. We actually met earlier in the week. I'm a legislative chair for District 74. And we're going through and we're seeing where those holes are now that they've gotten bumped. And we go to the next, if there's a vice chair, and if there's not, then we're reaching out. So if any of you are in a district and you want to see if there's, I know that some of the districts are needing some field, particularly if you're on the east side of the county. So if you're interested in being a precinct chair to help run the caucus, then reach out to your precinct chair or your legislative chair, and you can help fill those spots. But as a county party right now, we'll have that all squared away here this next week so that you will have your representation in each precinct, if that makes sense.
So then she left. So commissioners, would you mind asking her if she will include just one small thing, not which caucus meeting they're going to attend, but how they can find out the information. So when they send those voter registration cards out with what precinct they have, just say, this is where you go to find out where your caucus meeting is on March 8th.
She said it's going to be
It'll
on
be on
the
the
website.
website.
Right, but I'm saying when they, because the county's going to mail out something, then they will be able to tell them, please check this website to know where your caucus meeting is on March 8th. That will save hundreds of people a ton of time for our county to do something like that, because it's for every affiliation party. It's not nonpartisan. It's excellent.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you about that. Okay, there was one more question. Kathy Percival.
When I walk into the caucus, is there an order of business?
There is.
And does every caucus do the
Yes.
same order of
Yes,
business
it does.
across the state?
Yes.
Colorado.
Yeah. Anybody else? Other questions?
Comment.
Okay.
Just having been a part of all of this in the past, quite a few years ago, I was the chairman of Washington Republican Party, and when caucus night happens, you guys, after the caucus meetings are over, it is a nightmare. Because now you have 138 caucuses that have to turn in all their packets to a central location, and then the counting has to take place, the accountability, and it's really, really hard. So anybody that wants to assist, just because you're not on the executive committee for the County Republican Party doesn't mean you can't help. And so if you want to volunteer to help them make sure packets get where they need to, transportation to them, counting packets, all of those things. I know we've spent till 3 or 4 or 5 in the morning doing these things in the past, and I just don't, right, Colin? And it just, more hands make light work. And so if you could volunteer, I'm not part of the county leadership right now. I just remember what it was like. So we would love volunteers to help out with that.
Thank you. I'm gonna give you one more charge. Everybody ready for this charge? The night of your caucus meeting, you go, show up, and you say, how can I help? That's one thing. The next thing is when you're helping, you're gonna write on the paper, you're gonna help make it legible. Make sure that the emails are correct. Make sure the phone numbers are right. Because guess what? The people that are running, that are gonna be actually running, like the commissioners, the legislators, the congressmen, the senators, they want to be able to call and email those people. And if they're incorrect, which I hate to say it, but they sometimes just get written wrong. So help us with that.
make sure that they're written correctly on the pages and legible.
Then,
That's very
Can I
helpful.
make one comment?
Yes,
Real quick, who do we contact to say that we want to volunteer?
you can just show up at your caucus meeting and say, how can I help?
Okay.
Yeah, you
No,
can.
no.
No, they can show up and
I know,
help.
I got it.
Okay, one other thing, just to put a point on what Nanette said. If you don't want to be contacted by those who are campaigning, and you don't want to give your email address, and you don't want to give your phone, please don't offer to be a delegate. Because we have delegates who sign up to be delegates, and they don't want to give their phone number, they don't want to give their email address, because they don't want to be bothered by candidates. Well, your job is to be bothered by candidates. Like we saw in the video, your job is to vet people for your neighborhood. So give the right email address, give the right phone number, and vet those candidates.
The other thing you can do if you don't want to give your regular email, you can get a Gmail account. A lot of delegates, delegates do that. So because you will get inundated with a lot of things. Other thing is, if you're a precinct person and you're trying to get people to help, particularly with the check-in process, get people that are efficient. This isn't a social event, and let's catch up and see how little poo-poo's doing, and do you want to see the pictures and blah, blah, blah. No, if you have a successful caucus, you're gonna be checking people in, ba-bam, ba-bam, and you've got to make sure that they're there. Also, your check-in people can also be your vote counters, which this may be confusing, but it really is in the packet that comes. There's an agenda and a how to do it. So, and with a script, and it's not difficult. So there you go.
You're welcome.
At the end of the night, and I don't see Lisa here, but most of the time they'll have you go back to a website and add those things, because in the past when we were the chair, they would have people at a location to enter and everything. So now I think it's going to be the responsibility of the actual chairman, vice chair, and secretary to go back that night before they go home and go to bed to put that information in of the 160 people that are there, their name, addresses, phone numbers, and emails, because then the people that are running for office can get a hold of them. It's very important to put your leadership online.
Oh,
So,
no, there's the check-in list, the holy list you take. If that's online, all you do is go in and put the check mark.
yes,
You don't
right.
have to do a lot of keying.
Right, but you have to put who's the precinct chair, who's the vice chair. So that information gets sent over, say, this is our leadership, and it's finished that night. Okay, yes, question.
Would it be unreasonable to ask, you, Judy, or Colin, the other guy's name, to help Colin, to help make us a list of vetting questions that will help us, because I can think of a few of my own, but I may not be thinking of some critical things that you guys are thinking of. I wouldn't mind being a delegate, but I'd also love to have some very specific questions that I may not be aware of.
I love that.
You know what can you hear me? Okay, what we did, what Keith and I have done, only because we didn't think that we had enough time to vet people. So the last time when we did the replacing the county commissioners, and then when we did the sheriff, we rented the Abbey Inn, and the party provided and checked in the delegates. And so we had a vetting meeting here before the party meeting, before the CCC meeting, so that we could actually vet. And that turned out very well, because when you're in a group, so one person will ask a question and make other people. Plus, I have a habit of making sure that people know what the job requirements are, so that you can get a lot of questions from that, just based on, okay, it's the sheriff. All right, well, obviously, you know what the questions would be for him. Same way with the county commissioners. But you can really do a service to your delegates, or I'm sorry, for your precinct chairs and vice chairs, because that's who voted for those people, by having a vetting meeting before. Lots of times the party just doesn't have the means or the wherewithal to put something like that together. We're retired, we can do it.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking if there are new people in the community that want to be a part of it, they may not know anything about the second or the designated.
Right.
There's a lot of things they may not know, and just to be able to find out about
very.
So possibly, maybe we can submit our questions, Haley can put something together, put it on the website, or have it for next meeting, so we can ask some of those questions.
I was gonna say, to clarify some of these, Lisa Sandberg is our county party chair, and she has been working with the executive team, and it'll be very organized in your precincts of the way that they report that night and all the things that have been discussed, so you don't have to stress about that. They'll help them along the way. But yes, and I'll make a note of that. I'll let Lisa know too, from a county perspective, that maybe that's something that people are interested in learning how to vet candidates. Great, well, thank you. Wasn't our panel awesome? Let's give them a big. Vetting the delegates. So thank you. I know you've been bombarded with a lot of information, but I hope you will strongly consider attending your caucus meeting, even if you don't want to be a delegate or a precinct chair. You need to have your voice heard and attend there. So remember, if you want to get a Lincoln Day seat still, stay after and get with us on that. And if not, we'll see you at our next luncheon March 3rd. Thank you so much.